debate and a whole conversation about the merits of tourism, for example. Like, for example, does it, the money that it brings into a country or a nation, does that money go to the ordinary people? Does it go to like an elite group or like a multinational? So there's lots of different debates about tourism and the merits of it. And sustainable tourism is about equipping the people in the country to be more self-reliant, putting money into the hands of ordinary people. So I think for us as Caribbean people, it's really important because we are often I don't want to say victims, but we are, our nations are the ones that are exploited. So if we can change that, I think it's really important. So can I hand over? Is there anyone who wants to chip in, hearing what's been said so far? Sister Bira, you've got your mic off. Would you like to say something?
Well, I'm inclined to agree. I do definitely feel like in regards to tourism, especially like being Caribbean, one of the frustrating aspects is also like being a returnee. So for example, I don't access general tourist routes when I go back to the Caribbean because I don't require them, and we're not respected when we return back as a returnee or as a consistent person returning back. And often then there's also that whole thing where as a British Caribbean, you're bowled into the tourist label, and then so's also are the economic contribution we're making by returning back. So everything's bowled into tourism, like, oh, we're returning just to fit the tourist economy, when in reality we're returning to support our families, our friends, and everything over there. So I agree. I'm very much in like framing the sustainability of travel between us, because even for the price is extremely extensive because of our Commonwealth laws and the fact that we're still being overpriced and overtaxed. And compared to, like, I was in Amsterdam a couple of weeks ago, and wild, I know, but to travel to Guyana from England is a ridiculous price. Yeah, I'm looking at minimum, like, certain thing, and then I've got only now are they just launching British Airways a direct flight, and my parents have my dad passed here over 40, 50 years he was here. So whereas I go to Amsterdam, I can go to Suriname for £400, £400 because of so it was like, and even when I was in Amsterdam, everyone was asking me, oh, are you from Suriname? Are you from Aruba? Because they constantly promote their colonies.
Well, though, what I would say to that, sis, I think you're absolutely right, but I think there's a slightly problematic thing there, which is that the ABC Islands, as you said, Aruba, Bonaire, and Curacao, and there's also some other smaller islands, and I've forgotten the names of the islands because I've got a brother who's from Brethren, who's from there. They have real issues about still being colonized by the Dutch. They don't have any independence. It's like Martinique and Guadeloupe. They're actually colonized by the French, whereas Guyana, Trinidad and Tobago, Barbados, Grenada, St. Vincent the Grenadines, St. Lucia, Dominica, Jamaica, you keep going up, St. Kitts, Nevis, all of Antigua, all of those islands that were colonized by the English. Even though there's a problem of the Commonwealth, which is another colonizing force, in reality, we still got a degree of independence, which sadly the Dutch and the French islands don't have. If you see what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I think that needs to be taken into consideration as well.
Yeah, it does. The only reason why I said it then highlights in regards to how is more about the price. So for example, we're charged so much because they're saying air miles, but it's not air miles. It's it, and then it reminds
profit margins.
Yeah, it's profit margins. And that's where, again, because my brother-in-law's from Guadeloupe, so I'm used to him going to France and then going to Guadeloupe. Like, that was always some like a very, that's his consistent travel. And it's speak to him was when we mentioned like going to Jamaica. He's like, it's ridiculously expensive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
so,
there is a big difference. You're right.
There is.
We were talking about this as well, sis. It's a really good point that you've raised, because this whole thing in previous conversations at the Diamond Round Table, which is an opportunity for us to have these conversations and look at how maybe we can contribute to solving them. One of the things that came up was about how we can't travel easily between the islands. That's another issue. So sometimes you have to fly from, you're in Cuba, for example, and you want to go to Trinidad, because I experienced this, and you can't fly directly. You have to go via like Mexico or something. You know what I mean? When you think, well, why can't you? Cuba's at the top of the Caribbean and Trinidad's at the bottom. Why can't you just fly straight down? It's only like 4 hours away. But yeah, they have all these weird things. Sometimes you have to, if you're in Grenada and you want to go to Martinique, you can't just fly straight to Martinique. You might have to go to almost to Paris to then go back to Martinique. Do you know what I mean? There's lots of really weird things about us being interconnected across the Caribbean.
And a lot of it, because I was researching it before, had to do with airspace. So with our original airspace and water, with our original independence agreements, we never included airspace and water. So, for example, even for the simple fact that Britain still has Montserrat, a lot of air flight is overtaxed. Britain, they have to pay Britain to fly over certain part of Montserrat or the British Caribbean Isles, and that's the same thing with the other colonized isles. So if you want to fly over Martinique or do certain things, you have to pay them, and so to avoid it, that's why they go to America to do this.
That's really, really good information, sister. And that's come up before, and it's a really good point you've raised. This is how they control us.
Mm-hmm.
And we need to think of strategies to outplay that.
That was it. I was really hoping that our next step would be the connection with Caribbean and Africa directly. Most
definitely. Have you heard about the flight between Jamaica, and I'm not sure if it's Ghana or Nigeria? Maybe somebody on the call knows. But they did it for the first time, I think, 2 years ago. Or it was either 2021 or something. Does anyone know? Can anyone remember the first direct flight between Jamaica and, like I say, it was either Ghana or...
I think it was Ghana. I think it was like around 2020 or 2021, because there was a big festival in Ghana and they linked it, and
the returnee thing.
Yeah, I think.
I don't know if it was connected, actually. I think it was quite separate, if I remember. I think it was more something that's been worked on between everybody here. If you don't know, you want to know more, but everybody here familiar with CARICOM? CARICOM, the network or organization for the Caribbean islands, economic and political and social partnership or whatever. But they have a thing with the AU, which is the African Union, about trying to do more interconnectedness, coming up to the point you've made. And I think that initiative came out of conversations that have been going on for a while about how to do that.
That's good. Hopefully we can see more development in that, because that's what ideally we need, especially even if
when we talk about community integration, you're also talking about integration between Africa, the continent, and us, people of African heritage and the diaspora in the Caribbean.
Definitely. I think it's important, especially now more people are like doing DNA tests and finding out about themselves and where they are and their actual ancestry. And so it's important for us to develop those roots, and that we shouldn't have to go through colonial routes to then experience our history.
Most definitely, sister. Those are such good points that you raised this evening. I'm wondering, is there anyone who's got any opinions or views that they'd like to share on this? Some of the things that Sister Bira?
Sabera, yeah.
Yeah. Is this the way it's come up? Sorry, on your
No,
screen.
sorry, it's my fault.
Has been sharing about this whole issue of flight paths, where we're allowed to fly, where we're not allowed to fly, how much control we have over, you know, where we can go, where we can't go. Is it a form of colonialism? Continuing colonialism? We have quite a few of you here tonight. It would be nice to hear from some people. I don't want to call out names in case people want to just chill and listen, but at the same time, well, Atiba, you're gonna have to come in now, brother. See, you're the go-to when we can't get them to talk, brother. You're gonna have to be the one to like hold that flame still.
Yeah.
So what are we thinking? Sister Bira has made some fantastic. Abira has made some fantastic points.
Sister Sabera, she went.
Sabera, sorry, yes.
Sabera? Is that how I pronounce it? Sabera.
Yeah, that's me.
Yeah,
Sabera, yes, okay.
Yeah, you went in, boy.
Yeah.
Yeah, you was just getting in. She was just getting in that hard. Yeah, like what's it called? How to build on that, like what's it called? So I don't know if you all know, I was showing Sister Isis today, but Caribbean Global Destinations is now we won an award from Lux Life Travel and Tourism as the best Caribbean travel partner 2023. So already, even with those sort of steps there, that's now us being able to sort of control some form of airspace. As of recent, after doing a lot of research or even hearing about the different islands and stuff like that, being a man from Trinidad and Tobago, I always wanted to push the island of Trinidad and Tobago in regards to tourism. But then, as of recent, from speaking to different people, I realized that St. Lucia is a very, very strong place to start tourism within the Caribbean and stuff. So these are just ideas, and we're just building on them, basically.
I mean, has anyone here been to St. Lucia on the call? Be interesting to hear what you have to say about the place, because I hear that as well, that the amount of events and activities make it really, really attractive.
I've been to St. Lucia. I was on a cruise, so we long, but it was beautiful. I preferred Antigua, but I don't know if that's just maybe a personal preference in regards to what to do, the music. I find this a little bit more neutral. So, for example, St. Lucia, if you don't have the strongest passion of soca, then in regards to like entertainment wise, evening wise and things like that, and they still have that mix of French Creole. So I love it personally. We did 2 different nights at St. Lucia, so I thought it was beautiful. But I think Antigua was just as amazing.
I've been to Antigua, so I yeah, it's a beautiful island. Really good, actually. The week I was there, long enough, really, but never been to St. Lucia. Anyone else been to St. Lucia? I know Sister Lorraine said she'd love to go. Hasn't been there yet, but yes, we must always have aspiration to see as much of the Caribbean as we can. If we want to talk about integration, innovation, all of these things.
Sabera, you know, when I'm talking about St. Lucia, I'm talking about St. Lucia on from a viewpoint of its accessibility to all the other islands.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because so that's like, so it's only recently, like I said, I'm from Trinidad, so I would always want to push Trinidad to the forefront of everything. But then, so, but then obviously, like when I'm thinking about things on a what we're looking at building here and what we're looking at bringing together here, I'm like, rah, from when I've found out about more St. Lucia's place in this whole sort of thing, I'm like, damn, like, rah, we got to really, because we got to think strategic here. We can't just think, I love this island, so I'm just gonna it's, you know what I'm saying?
No, I understand. I get when you say that it makes more sense, because, like, for example, again, I know that in Barbados you could take the Caribbean Airlines to St. Lucia. So I understand when you said about accessibility, that makes more sense in regards to as well, like holiday and tour and that.
Because if we want to maneuver this whole thing where we can literally maneuver around the whole Caribbean, go to Africa, do everything like that, and we want to just, and then, because even now when I'm looking at, say, British Airways and Virgin Atlantic, they both go to St. Lucia, but one of them doesn't go to Trinidad, for example. Do you understand?
Yeah, I get that.
Yeah, so that's
actually, yeah. Is there a reason why I don't, like, obviously major airlines don't go to?
Well, it's what you were saying before about how they control the airline, the airways rather, and they control which people can visit which people, essentially. I mean, I believe it's ultimately that divide and rule thing, and I really think that there is a fear of us in the Caribbean uniting, and then us in the Caribbean uniting with our people on the continent, our ancestors in effect, because that would then cause real problems for them. If we were all united, we control all the world's resources. Imagine what that means.
Just off the flip side, just like devil's advocate, or throwing something out there, when issues with air travel, and air travel means like arguing policy in regards to like our air laws and taxes and things like that. What about reverting, especially with the Caribbean, back to water? Because this was always my thing, because like I go to Barbados and I like to fish, and I know the fishermen, they go out and they integrate a lot, and obviously there's been a lot of issues with fishermen being in other people's waters, but wouldn't it, for social integration, wouldn't that be the best point of call for us to like have a ferry system where we could travel?
In theory, yes. I mean, again, you raise another brilliant point, because actually the whole point of how, when our people were kidnapped and trafficked across from predominantly West Africa to the Caribbean, there was a very short, like that. I remember watching a documentary, and they said there's a very short point across the Atlantic between
Ghana and
Angola and Brazil, for example. So that's why you have so many Angolan people. Well, actually, that's actually even Southwest Africa, but in Brazil, and then yes, like the Ghana and those areas, Nigeria and stuff. If you look at the map, you can see how they go across to the Caribbean. It's not actually that far to go. And if people were able to do that in 1500 and 1600 and 1700, then surely there must be a way to develop a really, that's what the Right Honourable Marcus Garvey was trying to do with the Black Star Line. Maybe we do need that. Cruise ships.
Could we develop that in the Caribbean first, so into Caribbean travel, and then we would then add Africa onto the next, because I think that would be, air travel in itself obviously is quite convoluted just in itself, and I think that especially the access of boats and stuff, that will be so much easier for us in the Caribbean if I could just go to a port with my suitcase, jump on the
I
ship.
know, it'd be fantastic. I love it. I remember when I was in the Bahamas, I had to go from Nassau to Harbour Island, this tiny island, this kind of luxury little island place. And I had the choice of flying for like 25 minutes or something with some Pineapple Airways or something, I don't know, which didn't sound great. Or just taking a boat for a 3-hour trip across the I suppose it's the Caribbean Sea up there. It was absolutely fantastic. I just went on the boat, and we don't realize how beautiful that is. We have a possibility. Yes, Matthew, my brother, put your hand up. Okay, and Sister Lorraine,
Yes,
Tobago,
yes.
Cuba.
Greetings,
Yes,
everyone,
my brother,
again.
greetings.
The sister had explained very extensively. She even take the words out of my mouth, because I was really going to talk about that Caribbean to Africa, which yes, there is a flight, and more have been emerging since 2022. Yeah, and I believe there's Ethiopian Airways, from Barbados to Nigeria and Ghana. Yeah.
So it's Barbados, not Jamaica, right? Thank you for that clarification.
Yeah, Barbados. And Jamaica did it this year they say it was starting in March of this year from Jamaica to Nigeria, and so all that is really interesting as well. Yeah, I just wanted to add that, I want someone else to include tonight.
Well, no, I'd love to hear some more from you. We're hearing some really good, interesting opinions and views about this whole thing. We're talking about how we are able to build sustainable and fulfilling. We haven't spoken about the fulfilling yet, which would be interesting to know, because we're talking about sustainability, but also make it fulfilling, those travel experiences. How can we build that? And also, how does the role of like community integration and innovation play a role? How do we achieve this using that kind of model?
Well, for me, that seemed to be very political, It seemed to be very, very political, and the suggestion of boats as well might be a bit more easy to start with, whilst we go through the airline and the securing the airspace as well. And I think public sentiment could probably help getting a consensus from many Caribbean islands, starting with Trinidad. It could kind of hasten the pace of the government, because there have been a lot of discussions and debates about that particular topic. Yeah, and as you say, Africa is a stone throw away from the Caribbean. I actually manifested a flight to Africa just by going on the beach coast and say, "Whoa, I found an apple a day," and I say, "Where did this apple come from?" And I say, "I want to go to Africa." And in 2 years, I was in Africa. So yeah, having those kind of interactions is really interesting. And as I say, we will have to approach the government on these issues for support and public sentiment. The more people vote for that, it probably could happen very, very soon, because it's already in the making, and we have the first flights from Barbados, as we say, to Nigeria, Lagos, and this is Ethiopian Airways. So that is an Ethiopian flight we're talking about. We're not talking about a Caribbean flight or a flight from Britain. Yeah. So yeah.
Great contribution, brother. Very good points.
Yeah.
And I have to say, Ethiopian Airways is like the best airways I've ever traveled on. And I've traveled quite a lot. Well, probably, yeah. I've traveled on a lot of airlines to many countries. And my flights were when I was in West Africa, traveling like from Senegal to the Gambia, Senegal to Benin, actually, Republic of Benin. I've done that a few times. And Ethiopian Airways is just the best. The food is really good. The service is amazing. It's so clean. I would recommend it to anyone. You know, as opposed to some, I mean, I went on Moroccan Airways. It was terrible. Food was disgusting. The toilets didn't even smell clean. It was just really awful. So it just shows you, you know, African Airways, the difference. Yeah. So yeah, you make some really good points. And I actually think, I don't know what people think. And it's interesting, brother, that you mentioned, you sort of said political, but I don't know if it's political, it's more social and historical, because if you think about this, if our ancestors were kidnapped from Africa against their will, they were put on boats and trafficked into enslavement in the Caribbean and in the Americas, as it's called. And so if we now in the Caribbean, as the descendants of those who were kidnapped and trafficked, were to then create our own shipping, what would you call it? Shipping lines in terms of tourism and travel, going back to the continent, that there is something very, very deeply spiritual about that, and also historical. And yeah, it's quite a deep thing in many ways.
Yeah, I think that might attract more travelers than to come to England, because not a lot of people really want to come in the cold. You know, people would be amazed to know that it have a flight from the Caribbean to Africa. You know,
what about a boat ride?
A boat ride might be a bit more intricate because of the tides and all these things. Yeah.
But have you ever seen a cruise ship?
A big one of those big cruise ships. Yeah. All
have you seen how big they are?
viable.
I mean, I know that the sea is vast and it can sink any ship. On, you know, the biggest ship, it's like a tiny toy when the sea is rough. The sea is very powerful. But actually, those big cruise ships, if you think about the distance between, you know, if there's a point in West Africa and a point in the Caribbean, I think it's quite doable. I'm not a shipping expert. I don't know if anyone here is. They know anything about shipping, but I think it is quite doable. Those cruise ships are enormous. I stood on the quay looking at one when I was in Bahamas, as I said, in Nassau, and I couldn't believe how big it is.
I'm not too sure, but they have something they say about the Bermuda Triangle, where I think they're just trying to frighten us, because those small little canoes come over the ocean so easy.
Yeah, but also, you know, if you had a ship that was chartered or owned or something that could stop off at 3 or 4 islands, pick people up, and then sail across the Atlantic at the nearest point, take you into West Africa, and then in West Africa you could do, you know, like people could travel, you know, like local style. You could get those local buses in West Africa. They're really cheap. I mean, they're not the most comfortable things. Sometimes, you know, there are people with goats and chickens and everything, whatever on there, but at least you get to live the way our people live on the continent.
Yeah, that is okay. That's okay. Yeah, that is okay. You want to travel with the locals?
Ghana, Nigeria to Benin, you know, Gambia, Senegal. I don't know. What do people think? Opinions, traveling into Caribbean and off to the continent? Yes, brother San, you've taken off your mic. Were you going to say something? Okay, maybe not. Sabira, you've got your mic off. I'm just going for the person with everybody's got their mics on.
Oh, sorry. I was just saying, I think the boat idea would be, it's amazing. I just hear my mum going, no, we've done too much on the boat to be going back.
You want to go back in style.
But maybe there could be something. I don't know. I mean, I suppose there could be different options. There could be obviously flights, but there might be people who would actually enjoy sailing back in a way. So sort of like, I don't know if people are familiar with the concept of Sankofa, going back to fetch it. It's also that fantastic film with Mutabaruka, but yeah, it's a Sankofa sort of thing, going back to where you started. So people could look at it as almost like a spiritual journey, or yeah, in terms of like sustainability in travel, and maybe that might be fulfilling. I'm wondering why I'm not getting many contributions. I have to give thanks. Brother Matthews contributed, Sister Sabira. I'm sure all of you have really interesting opinions and views to share on this topic.
We've got the beautiful, we've got DJ. Well, Sabira's been giving us some beautiful contributions. We've got Donna, we've got Lorraine, we've got Ayana, we've got Karina, we've got Roslyn. You know what I'm saying? We've got some beautiful people in there, you know. Like,
yeah, a lot of sisters. Let's hear some more voices.
And trust me, they've got a lot of them who are on here right now. They've got some great educated knowledge, but obviously they're currently.
I know some people are tired after work and they just want to chill, and they're not looking to like get too deep into things. But it would be still nice to hear the voices of some of our sisters here, to share some of their experiences. I know people have been putting stuff in the chat as well. Give thanks for that. It's on the, so DJ saying it's on the chat. Okay, the money is coming. Okay, boat. All right, I'm going to read back. So maybe if I read back. So LC is saying that her family, his family, I'm not sure who LC is. Is that Lorraine?
Yeah. Lorraine, don't cry, I'm leaving. I can't miss this jamming.
I'm here, guys. I am here.
Oh, Lorraine, we got to hear your voices.
Oh, yes.
Explain about your voice out.
Oh, hold on. Lorraine, bless her.
Yes, it's me.
Yes. So I, you know, just the other day, I was speaking to Lorraine, I showed her the song, you know.
Yeah.
Lorraine, don't cry, I'm leaving.
Yeah.
Okay, so what about, do you want to chip in a little bit? You were talking about your family being Jamaican. You made some comments, some really interesting comments in the chat. Maybe just voice them a little bit so we can hear your lovely voice.
I'm just trying to catch up with everything. I joined a little bit late, so I was just trying to catch up with everything that you were saying. But with my family being from Jamaica, I find that when it comes to returning to any sort of Caribbean island or visiting Caribbean islands, or even visiting Africa, because I'd like to visit Ghana, because of the financials behind it, like the flights are so pricey. So I always opt to go back home to visit family and invest back into Jamaica. So I did end up going to Tobago, but that was for a wedding. And I would love to go there again. So speaking to Atiba all the time about traveling, it kind of encourages me to go to different places. But then at the same time, if you look at it from a financial standpoint, it makes sense for me to just go home.
I hear you.
But I think it's strategic how they do the flights anyway, with the prices. So they want you to visit some places and not other places. So I have noticed that.
Well, how do you want to explain a little bit further about what
for example, if I wanted to go to maybe Dominican Republic, the flight would be half the price of going to Jamaica. But because my family lives in Jamaica, I'm always going to have to find that extra. And it's not just me traveling as well. I'm traveling with 2 young children. And yeah, prices are roughly from about 1,500 each. So it does add up quite quickly.
Oh, that's phenomenally expensive.
Yeah, and it would work out the same if I was going to go to Ghana as well, because I did look into that. So,
you see, this is a very interesting point again, and it comes back to the political. I mean, it's like almost you can't separate life from the political when you're somebody of African Caribbean heritage, because that's how we've been almost pigeonholed in that way. But yeah, that's a really interesting point about which places it's cheaper to go to, and we all know, well, no, I'm assuming, never assume, it is well known that the Dominican Republic is quite racist, and
Mhm.
also the way they're very antagonistic and racist. There's a lot of colorism and demonization of people from Haiti and their treatment, because as you'll know, the island is one island. Dominican Republic and Haiti is one place, one island, and it's split down in the middle more or less. And so yes, so it's interesting that, like you say, it's cheap to go to the Dominican Republic, but imagine if you wanted to go on holiday to Haiti. It'd be near impossible, but they've been punishing Haiti ever since Haitians won their independence. So yes, I think that's a good point. But Brother Malik, you've got your mic off. Did you want to say something? Hello, greetings.
Who's that?
Malik? Or San? Both of you have got your mics off. Did either of you want to speak? Somebody said, who's that? Okay, anyone else wanted to comment on what was just said? Some places it's easier to travel to, it's made cheaper and more accessible, and other places it's way more expensive.
I can comment.
Yes, brother.
Yeah, and what I'm gonna say, there's nothing to do with the actual show itself, but I've been to a few WhatsApp meetings and Teams meetings, Zoom meetings, and there's been a lot of controversy around a meeting after the meeting. So there's been like a meeting is you have your all structure meeting, and then after the meeting, everyone just have a little socialize. So I don't know if that's a nice little thing to do. So that I've got a few meetings that that I join, and I join the meetings. We have our structure, we have a business mind, and it's a business meeting. And after that, everyone just relaxes, and it's the meeting after meeting. It's just to chill out. You know, everyone just talks about whatever the hell they want to talk about. And not talk about, you don't need to talk about nothing about whatever the subject is. You talk about whatever you want to talk about. So it's really nice because I've got a few meetings I joined like that, and it's nice because I joined the meeting, we have a business talk, and after that, everyone just relaxes. You know, it's like you're not there personally, but it's like everyone's there. It's like everyone's get together. It's like a gathering. Just a suggestion. Sorry.
Yeah.
Just a suggestion.
Yeah, Tiba.
And it's really nice.
Thank you very much for that suggestion, but that is not going to be happening here. Literally, this whole thing is literally just about travel, about us moving forward with travel. Within this hour, we're going to look at how we can break down travel, how we can sort of elevate with the travel industry, travel and tourism industry, move forward like that. Anything or any other meetings that happen off the back of this are going to happen literally on other days as this platform becomes bigger and we're able to maneuver onto other places and spaces. But there wouldn't be no sort of, it has to stay like this, and we're gonna just build off the back of this.
Sure. No, I was just giving a suggestion from other meetings I've had, big meetings. So
it's a very nice suggestion, actually. Very, very nice suggestion. And I suppose, not in this space, but what Brother's saying here is it's
other platforms, absolutely.
Yeah, it can happen in another space because you're already making the connections. I mean, one of the points, a big point of the Diamond Roundtable is to make those connections. You know, it is about getting to know other people.
Exactly.
These networks.
That's what it is.
Exactly. And looking at how people can support each other into, creating wealth, community wealth, creating those networks that build wealth, that build opportunities. So yeah, opportunities for socializing are important too. Anyone else want to? We've only got like 10 minutes left actually of the hour. We usually are quite strict on the hour because Atiba's pretty on it. And so it would be great if there's anyone here. I know some people joined late, but we were talking about building sustainable and fulfilling experiences, travel experiences, that is, through community innovation and integration. So how do we, you know, as communities, how do we come up with new ideas? How do we do that together? Integration is all about collaboration. It's about partnership. It's about that, you know, out of many one. It's about unity. Brother Matthew, you've got your mic off.
Oh, I just wanted to contribute to say concerning like community guest houses or bread and breakfast, as we was talking about in the previous meetings.
Yes.
Have anyone contacted any family or anything pertaining to that?
No, I mean, I don't think we actually specifically instructed people to go away and do that. I think it was more about thinking about it. But you're right. I mean, there's a point at which the thinking becomes the doing. So I imagine that, well, we have to hand that to the man himself, Atiba, who's going to be obviously the one who starts to set whatever is going to come out of this in motion. He's going to be the one who's responsible for the strategy and the direction. So yeah, we will, I'm sure, yeah. I don't know so if, at this stage if we have an update yet, if we're there, or what we're thinking, Atiba.
Well, like I said, two things which, wait, somebody's mic's on and it's getting, somebody's mic is on. I can't wait yet, I found it. Yeah, two things at this moment point in time that I've been updated with is the fact that yeah, like I found out that St. Lucia is the main place that we should be looking to operate from in the Caribbean, and the fact that we won the best Caribbean travel partner 2023. So that's where we're currently at. So I think off the back of that, we can be making some major moves now. And there's even some, on this particular call as well, there's even somebody from St. Lucia who's here. But obviously, unless they want to identify themselves, I won't be calling them out. But yeah, but I would look to have a conversation with them at a later date, or even after this meeting, and we'll move forward and see what can be best done. But from the information that I've received, I realized that St. Lucia is the best place to operate from. Being a proud Trinbagonian, I would always wanted to have just given that to Trinidad and Tobago. But being a strategic person, you have to play it how best to score the goal and make a lot more goals happen, basically. As opposed to...
Thank you. Sorry, can I just get I have Sister Rosalind's got her hand up, and Sister Lorraine made a comment on the chat about how we could put together a directory of B&Bs that are owned by us. Sister Rosalind, did you want to speak? So, and then yes.
Good evening, everybody. Hi, this is
greetings.
I don't know if you can hear me clearly.
Yes.
Atiba, a quick question to you.
Go ahead.
I'm from Trinidad and Tobago, and I know one or two people who does like Airbnb and that sort of things, or bed and breakfast or Airbnb. My question is, are you going to make like for Trinidad and Tobago specifically, or for the Caribbean, wherever the global is, you're going to make a database with like these sort of connections? Because the most important thing that when people travel is like a place to stay, and also is the wealth coming in from like collaborating with these operators, where like you bring in people and you get a percentage. Or could you talk a little about it for me, please?
Well, as you know, I've already created a network full of Trinbagonians on WhatsApp for over the past 5 years. which has allowed and enabled a lot of things within the Trinidad community, especially within the Trinbagonian UK community, to be established. Some I've been given credit for, some I haven't been given credit for. So there is already a platform there, which is now called Destination Trinidad and Tobago, that has enabled a lot of Trinbagonians to connect within the UK. So that's already there and established, obviously via WhatsApp, but we're going to look at maneuvering it forward onto bigger platforms and hopefully get more of them to come and engage on platforms like this. What's it called? Moving forward, because I've created the brand Caribbean Global Destinations, which was created in 2020. I don't want to go into what the name, but it's obvious what the name is. Created in 2020, Caribbean Global Destinations was created because we realized and understood that the main thing that everybody around the whole globe was going to want was they're going to want to travel. So I said, if I start to promote traveling to everyone as a whole, by now, when things start to rise, we will be one of the main players because I've already got the marketing background. I've connected with several other countries, and as of recent, by having different conversations, as I stated before, I realized that the main country that has the most amount of sort of tourism or touristic places in the Caribbean and has a lot of interconnections is St. Lucia. So yeah, just looking at how we can obviously bring all of that together. We've already got the database of Trinbagonians, and yeah, we're just going to look at, and like I said, I just want to get more of them joining here, like yourself, you've joined here today as well, and let's just build. That's basically what we're doing.
Thank you. And thank you for the question, Sister Rosalind. Sister Dawn has put in the chat that she endorses or agrees with the idea of an Airbnb type model and keeping that money in the community, which, yeah, we were talking about that as well the last couple of shows. It seems very important to our community to keep money in the community, because, you know, there's those statistics about how many times the dollar or the pound circulates in the African heritage communities, and it's like very few times compared to other communities. So this is another important initiative. San, brother, you got your hand up? Hello?
Oh, sorry. Hello, how are you?
Yes, brother.
Yeah, so what I was saying is, I just wanted to say, yeah, it's really good to have this meeting, and everything's nice and it's all kosher, and we all get a lot of information out of it. And then, yeah, it's great to hear that everyone's importing the input. Hopefully, we can get something out of it, and then we can pursue some actions. You know, sometimes it's good we can get some information and pursue it and get some actions and start getting some work done. So thank you very much for the platform.
Welcome. Thanks for getting involved. The way the platform's going to grow is by people getting involved, people sharing ideas. You know, this is the whole point of a round table. You know, the round table is a place where we all sit around together. Everybody's voice is valued. Everybody's equal. Everybody's got equitable input, and we come and we create something together. So yes, give thanks for that. So we are coming to the end of this. I know a couple of people have just joined, so I can only
yeah, that's what that is not, sorry, just the button. That's the only thing I was saying in respect of a meeting after meeting where even the host or even the actual organizer don't have to be involved, because I've got meetings where the host organizer involved, but there's always a meeting after the meeting, and there's so many things can discuss, so many things, so many ideas come out of it, because it becomes a personal space rather than a structural space, you know. But it is what it is, you know.
I hear you, brother.
However people want to run the meeting, they can run the meeting. It's fine, you know.
Yes, I hear you, and what you're saying makes a lot of sense. And it works in many situations. And I think in this situation, though, our brother here, Atiba, is called Atiba Visions for a reason. He does have a vision, and his vision is very much about a very, very
Structured vision.
particular
Yeah,
type of
absolutely. It makes
space.
sense.
Yeah, you know, it's a very very clear kind of outcome. 1 hour, boof, boof, talk things through, then
Out
pick
the
up
way.
again next week. Yeah.
Makes sense. It makes
Yeah?
sense.
All
Thank
right,
you,
so
guys.
now, yeah, I give thanks for that, brother. And you've made some really good suggestions. So we've got to keep you on board, keep them coming. And really, now we've reached 10 o'clock, and I think it's time for me to hand over to Atiba for him to sum up his, feelings about how we've gone this evening, and to give thanks to everybody for their participation and their contributions. And we love having you, even if you don't feel able to speak or put your camera on at the moment. We value your inclusion and your involvement. We want you to keep coming and keep bringing extra people, because we're supposed to bring 3 extra people. So let's see if we can do it next time. So I want to hand over to our brother Atiba.
Yeah, again, thank you very much, Isis, for great hosting. It's beautiful how you're moving us forward as well. Thank you very much, everybody, for joining us tonight. We're going to be back again next week, Wednesday. Today was beautiful. Thank you for those who are writing in the comments. Thank you for those who have shared and expressed your opinions and your thoughts on today's topic. Look forward to seeing you all again next week. And yeah, do invite more people if you can. Get your friend, your families on board. But yeah, overall, the mission is to own planes, to own boats. This is the mission. Like we showed you guys already, we've just basically won a Travel and Tourism Best Caribbean Travel Partner 2023. And we're receiving good information, good intel in regards to how we can move forward as a team, where the best place in the Caribbean is to sort of operate from. And so, yeah, man, there's major changes and major things that are going to happen. And remember, it's dream destinations, boats, planes, and factories. One love, Empire.
Can I just add one quick thing before we end? Sister Karina has made a really interesting suggestion, and I don't know enough about it myself, but she suggested perhaps we explore Clubhouse as a platform to move it onto, because apparently you can build a bigger audience. So I'll hand that to you, brother.
On Clubhouse,
what's
it called? Like, I've actually gone into Clubhouse, and these with Zoom is a very, very professional platform.
Right.
When it comes to these type of things. Clubhouse is more of a sociable platform. So because what's it called? If you take anything like this to Clubhouse, it's going to be it will become more gimmicky.
Right. Okay. All right. I think that makes it really clear. So yeah, give thanks. Well thought out.
Yeah.
Well thought out.
Yeah.
So we say goodbye.
Yeah. Have a good evening all, and yeah, we'll see you again next week.
Peace and blessings, everyone.
Bye.